Welcome! This is a tutorial I put together for the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP functions in Microsoft Excel. If you want to follow along, you can find this Excel file at this link right here. You can also find this down in the description. I encourage you to do so because I have an example at the end for you to practice with. Check out the VLOOKUP function. There's a lot going on here. This is our formula right here in E3. I broke it out so that the four variables are in these four cells, so it is easier to see and make quick adjustments for this demonstration. Just to show you what our formula would typically look like if you had entered it manually, we can type it in here, VLOOKUP, open parenthesis, 5. The table array is G2 colon J12 comma 3 comma false, which matches our four variables here, and we get 3.25, which matches our other result, the result of our other formula. Okay, so VLOOKUP means vertical lookup. To find the lookup value, which is here, in the table, which is set by this range, the table array range, which is this, it starts in the first column at the very top, and it works its way down. So it starts here in G2, and it starts looking down until it finds 5. So it found 5, and then it goes to this column. It's looking for column 3. So this is column 1, 2, and 3, which is 3.25, which matches the result up here. Now the fourth variable is actually optional. I have it set here to false. I strongly encourage you to always actually type in this variable. The default value is true. I encourage you to type it in even if it is true, just so that you make sure you have thought about the result you expect to get and that matches the actual results you are getting. True means approximate match and false means exact match. This brings me to my first tip. I have found in my work that at least 95% of the time I want that variable to be set to false. And I will explain a little bit further in some of my other more specific tips, but I think you will find that you will agree that most of the time you want this to be set to false. Second, the range usually requires the dollar values to be set around your table array. Generally, when you are using this function, you want to create it and then copy it to a lot of other data. Without the dollar signs around the table array, it will shift on you. For example, if I don't have the dollar values here, and I were to drag my formula down, if I dragged it down 1, instead of this range, it would actually be this range, which would still give me the correct answer because it's still going to find 5, but then if I dragged it down to, say, 20 rows down, or let's just say 6 rows down, it would now be looking in that range, and it wouldn't find the correct answer, and it would give you an error message. What you'll find is you'll set your range in your first cell, it'll work. You'll drag it down, and most of the time it'll work for like your first few copy and paste formulas, because most likely it's going to find, like, as you drag down, it's just moving down one at a time, and so it'll usually find the correct value, but eventually you're going to start getting below the values that you're trying to look up, and you'll start getting error messages after like row 10 or whatever. Like, it depends on how big your table is, but eventually you'll start getting nothing but error messages. Third, if you you have a duplicate lookup value in your table array, the lookup will only ever find the first result. So as you can see, we've got 5 here, and all of these are currently unique, but if we had another one, it still finds 3.25 and completely ignores the 15.49. If, say, it was up here, it would, now it's finding 96.12, and it's completely ignoring these other two results. So your lookup values must be completely unique, or you're going to find, or you will have values within your table that will never actually occur. You'll never have those pulled into your data because it will never be able to find them, because it will only ever find the first match. Fourth, when range lookup is true, you will only ever find the closest value below your target value. Your table also must be sequential, or you could get the wrong result even with an exact match within your table. Let me demonstrate. So currently we're set to false. Let me set that to true. And now if I were to set this to 5.1, it's still finding 3.25. If it's 5.9, it's still finding 3.25. It won't round up to 6. Let me just show you that these do work. If that's 6.1, now it's finding 15.49. Now, a potential problem here is if you don't have sequential, so let me put 5.1 and 5.8, 6, and 5 here. So even if I had 5 here, because my data isn't sequential, it's actually working its way down and saying, alright, 5 is greater than 3, 5 is greater than 4, 5 is not greater than 5.1, so it goes back to 4, looks up column 3, and results 4591. Even though 5 is here in an exact match, it should be showing up as 73.77, but that's not the way this function works. If you do not have your table in sequential order, a more exact result could be in the table and it will not see it. Okay, so fifth, on the other side of this, when you have it set to false, it must find an exact match. So let's set all this back. So if I were to type in 5.1 now, it gives me an error message. It must be exact. It won't find a partial match. If you put 0, it's not going to find part of 10. It must be 10. It must be one of the values. If it's not an exact match, it will not give you a result. Sixth, you can look up text, but it has to match the entire cell value. No partial matches. So currently I have it set to G2 through J12, which is looking at the header. So if I were to type in lookup, it will actually find lookup within this table. And so it gives me the third column, it gives me zone 2. But it must be a full exact match. It won't find look, even if you set this to true. Once you convert this to text, it must be exact no matter what you have the last variable set to. It won't find a partial match. It doesn't, when it's a number, it knows how to approximate, but when it's text, it has no idea what you're trying to do and it won't try. So the seventh tip, it does not convert lookup value from text to number or number to text. So let's move this back. So my first example here, it says text to number. So if this is text, you put an apostrophe and then 5, it will not find 5 in here, even though it looks exactly the same. This is one of the sneakiest errors and toughest to recognize, because your data will look correct. Like if you're just looking down your list, you don't know, like you won't specifically know that it's formatted as text right off the bat. So you'll see it as 5 and 5 and it'll still give you an error message. It must be looking at the exact same format. So now since that's text, if this was converted to text, it is going to find the answer. It is going to match those exactly now. But now, just showing you all the examples here. If this was back to just a number and this was text, it won't find it that way either. They must match exactly, format and the number must match. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at HLOOKUP. There's really nothing new to really convey here. HLOOKUP is set up exactly the same as VLOOKUP, only it is now horizontal. The only difference is that instead of looking down the first column, it is looking from left to right along the first row, and now instead of looking up a column index number, it's looking up the row index number. So if this is matching, see we're looking up the same value here, so it's looking up 5 and then going down to the third row and it's still 3.25. I intentionally made this the exact same table. You can play around with these numbers. Hopefully you've downloaded the spreadsheet and you're following along. You can play with all of these variables here and see how they affect different things. I encourage you to just try all the different things you can think of, try to break it, figure out why it's broken. So we will now go ahead and go to our example. Okay, so I created a simplified example that's kind of somewhat more of a real-world application. It's very simplified. Just basically what I'm showing here is that we have 30 orders. I just created sequential number 1 through 30. And we have the ship to zone, which basically what I'm trying to refer to is I work with shipping in my actual job, and the shipping carriers basically give zones. Basically they are the distance away from where you are shipping from. So like zone 1 would be your city, zone 2 would be maybe your state, zone 3 would be the surrounding states, zone 8 would be like state on the other side of the country. I live in America, that's why I'm using those as examples. So that's what this is kind of referring to, just different zones. And then this is the weight of the actual package that you're shipping for each order. I just pretend that all of these are basically, we're shipping the same thing but different quantities or whatever, and they're just different weight orders going to the different zones. So what we want to do here is find the actual shipping rate from this chart that matches each of the zone and weight. So basically for this first order, your result should be zone 3, which is here, and weight 10. So it should be, your first result should be $9.25. Now, I encourage you to pause the video here, and there is a way to get the same result using a VLOOKUP or an HLOOKUP. You can get the same result either way. I encourage you to pause the video and try to come up with those formulas in both scenarios, and then once you think you've figured it out, or if you get stumped, go ahead and continue on. The spreadsheet does have the answers at the end. It's the last sheet, but I encourage you to try it before you take a look at anything or keep going. So I'll let you pause it here. I'm going to just wait a few seconds and then I will continue. Okay, so hopefully you have tried it out, and now we are going to go ahead and and I will show you what you need to do here. So for VLOOKUP, what we're going to do, since we're VLOOKUPing up, so we need to find the weight first. So our lookup value is going to be the weight. Our table array will be this complete table. And since I'm going to be making this formula and copying and pasting it down for all of the orders, I need to surround this range with $signs so that that table will always remain there no matter what I do with it. Okay, so the column index number, this may have caused you a little hiccup. I wanted to make this a little bit more real world, to make you think a little bit more than just using the formula. But what we have here is we have zones, and we have the ship zone over here, but that 3 would actually, if we used just this, then it would actually give us zone 2. But if we just add 1 to it, then it will always give us the correct zone. So now we've got the column index number is 3 plus 1 or 4 plus 1, so that it goes to the correct column. And then we want to set it to false, although in this example I didn't specifically make that vital. False, I believe, would be the correct way to set this formula up, but you would technically get the same exact answer setting it to true, just because I didn't set this example for that to make a difference. But I would want that to be false, because if you had some kind of odd data in here, if you have that set to true, you may never even notice that it's not giving you the answer that you want. Okay, so we enter that in and we get $9.25, which is what we expected. Ship zone 3, weight 10, $9.25. If we drag that down, we can check a few. Let's go to order 14. It should be ship zone 1. Well, actually, let me tell you in the direction that we're actually looking it up. So it's weight 10, so it goes down to 10, and ship zone 1. So it should be $7.25, which it is. And let's just check one more down here. So we've got weight 5. So we're doing example order number 25. So weight 5 and ship zone 3. So weight 5 and the ship zone is 3, so it should be $8. We're at order 5 and it's $8. Okay? So the way to do this with HLOOKUP, set up HLOOKUP. Now we want to look up the weight or the zone value. So select that, and same range, and again you want to surround it with the $signs, and same theory here. We're going to do the weight plus 1, because we have this first row that we want to get past. So if it was weight 1, we really want row 2, so just add 1 to it and you'll get the correct row. And again, set it to false, but technically you would get the same exact answer if you set it to true in this example, but I would strongly recommend, if you want it to be exact, or if this kind of scenario seems like it should be exact, so I would set it to false. Depends on your opinion. I mean, obviously it will depend on your application, but I just keep that in mind. That is a sneaky last variable that can cause a lot of confusion and can cause a lot of erroneous results. Okay, so we get $9.25, and if we copy this down to the rest, you'll see that we get the same exact answer for every single one. Okay? Well, I hope this helped. If you have any other suggestions for functions for me to go over, please let me know in the comments. If this helped, please leave me a like, subscribe. Appreciate any feedback that I can get. Appreciate any support, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you.